Everyone remembers the strangest line in American literature. I would prefer not to. 4 polite words that bring an entire office to its knees. But here's what almost everyone misses. This story was never really about the pale copyist who refuses to work. It's about the man telling you the story. A comfortable Wall Street lawyer who watched an employee slowly starve, and who has been rehearsing his excuses ever since. Read it again, and the whole thing changes shape. Every paragraph is a defense. Every kind gesture gets carefully itemized, like receipts saved for a trial. Herman Melville didn't write a puzzle about one man's refusal. He wrote a confession disguised as a character study, narrated by someone desperate to convince you and himself that he did everything he could. Spoiler, he didn't. And deep down, he knows it. Notice how the lawyer introduces himself before he ever mentions Bartleby. He tells us he is an eminently safe man, someone convinced the easiest way of life is the best. He brags that John Jacob Astor, the richest man in America, once praised his prudence, and he admits he loves repeating that name because it rings like unto bullion. This is not neutral scene setting. This is a man taking the witness stand and establishing his good character before the evidence comes out. Melville lets him talk just long enough to reveal the problem. Here is a person who has organized his entire existence around never being inconvenienced, never being challenged, and above all, never being blamed. And then fate delivers to his door the one human being that comfort and prudence cannot handle, a quiet man who simply stops. When Bartleby first refuses to check his copies, the lawyer doesn't fire him, and he wants credit for that. But listen to his actual reasoning. He tells himself that tolerating Bartleby will cost me little or nothing, while storing up what he calls a sweet morsel for his conscience. That is the entire moral engine of this story, in one sentence. His charity is an investment. He isn't asking what Bartleby needs. He's asking how cheaply he can feel like a good person. Melville is dissecting a very specific kind of kindness, the kind that exists mainly to be remembered later, to be mentioned to others, to be written down in a story exactly like this one. And the moment that kindness starts to cost something real, reputation, money, comfort, we get to watch precisely how fast it evaporates. Watch what the lawyer does every single time Bartleby prefers not to. He doesn't act. He pulls the room. He turns to his other clerks, Turkey and Nippers, and the office boy Gingernut, and asks, "Am I right? Isn't this outrageous?" He is assembling a jury inside his own office, collecting little verdicts to soothe himself. It's a small detail, but it's devastating, because it shows a man who cannot trust his own conscience without witnesses. Bartleby, by contrast, never explains, never argues, never recruits anyone. He simply prefers not to, and stands there like a question the lawyer cannot answer. That is what makes him unbearable. Turkey's rages and Nippers' grumbling can be managed, laughed off, scheduled around. But quiet, motionless refusal holds up a mirror, and the lawyer keeps flinching away from whatever he sees in it. Then comes the story's quiet turning point. One Sunday morning, the lawyer stops by his office and discovers Bartleby has been living there, sleeping alone in that gray building on Wall Street, where weekends are as empty as a tomb. For one remarkable page, the lawyer's heart actually opens. He feels what he calls a fraternal melancholy, realizing that he and Bartleby are both sons of Adam, bound together in loneliness. It's the most human he ever sounds. And then watch how fast it curdles. Pity slides into repulsion. He decides Bartleby's misery must be incurable, and that there is no point helping a soul you cannot fix. Melville is showing us the exact moment compassion fails, not from cruelty, but from convenience. The lawyer glimpses real responsibility, feels its full weight in his hands, and then quietly sets it back down. Now we reach the act the narrator can never quite forgive himself for. Bartleby stops copying entirely. He won't work, won't leave, won't explain. And the lawyer, unwilling to have him dragged out by force, does something almost absurd. He moves. He packs up his entire office and relocates, leaving Bartleby behind like a piece of furniture standing in an empty room. Think about what that means. Rather than face this one silent man, he abandons the building itself. When the new tenants come asking about the strange figure haunting the stairwell, the lawyer's answer is chilling in its precision. This man is nothing to me. He isn't lying exactly. He's doing something worse, hiding behind a technical truth to escape a moral one. Bartleby was never on his payroll anymore. He was only, inconveniently, on his conscience. To be fair to him, and he desperately wants us to be fair to him, the lawyer does come back. Pressured by the new landlord, he offers Bartleby other work, a clerkship, tending bar, accompanying a gentleman to Europe. He even, in one startling moment, invites Bartleby to come live in his own home. It sounds generous until you notice the timing. Every real offer arrives only after the lawyer's name is at risk, after strangers begin connecting him to the scandal on the stairs. And when Bartleby declines at all, the lawyer doesn't stay with him. He literally flees, riding around the city and its suburbs for days in his carriage, hiding from his own life. Melville lets the geography do the talking. A man circling endlessly, going nowhere, because the one place he cannot bear to stand is beside Bartleby. Bartleby ends up arrested as a vagrant and taken to the Tombs, New York's prison. The lawyer visits, and Melville gives us the story's most quietly brutal exchange. Bartleby stands facing a high wall and won't turn around. "I know you," he says, "and I want nothing to say to you. No accusation, no anger, just recognition. The one thing the lawyer came for, absolution, is the one thing Bartleby prefers not to grant. So the lawyer does what men like him do. He reaches for his wallet. He pays the prison cook to bring Bartleby good dinners and leaves. It's the whole relationship in miniature, genuine distress converted instantly into a transaction. But Bartleby has stopped eating. Some debts, Melville is telling us, cannot be settled in cash. Days later, the lawyer finds him curled at the base of the prison wall, dead. And then comes the epilogue, the part that sounds like an answer but works like an alibi. The lawyer passes along a rumor he once heard, that Bartleby used to work in the dead letter office in Washington, sorting mail addressed to people who had died or disappeared. Letters carrying money, forgiveness, good news, all burned unread. What a haunting explanation, we think. But notice, it's only a rumor, and the lawyer admits he can't confirm it. So why end with it? Because it moves the blame. If dead letters broke Bartleby, then he arrived at that office already doomed, and nothing the lawyer did or failed to do could ever have mattered. It's the final, most sophisticated self-defense in a story built entirely out of them. He isn't solving the mystery of Bartleby. He's filing the paperwork that closes the case on himself. The story closes with a famous sigh. "Ah, Bartleby! Ah, humanity!" Generations of readers have heard compassion in it. Listen closer and you'll hear something else. A man performing grief because he cannot survive guilt. This whole story exists because the lawyer cannot stop telling it. Years later, he is still arranging the evidence, still explaining, still hoping that if he narrates it well enough, he will finally come out innocent. That's Melville's real insight, and it's why this strange little tale still stings after almost 2 centuries. We don't tell stories about the people we saved. We tell stories over and over about the people we failed, polishing our excuses until they sound like tragedy. So the next time someone tells you, at great length, how much they did for somebody, ask the question this story teaches. Who are they really trying to convince? Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If this gave you a new way to see the story, subscribe to Between the Chapters. A new literary deep dive lands every week, and I'd love to have you along for the next one.